Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 977 of NoDQ Video as the road to 1000 continues. As a reminder, episode 1000 will take place on August 16th. Mark that date on your calendar. With that being said, let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from Walter. How long do you think WWE will wait before making Samoa Joe the Universal Champion? I do not think he'll win at WWE Balls. Hashtag WWE Balls. I agree about WWE Balls. I would be very surprised if Samoa Joe won the Universal title. Plans can always change, but my gut feeling is Samoa Joe was never intended to beat Brock Lesnar. He's in this match simply for the fact that Braun Strowman got hurt and WWE needed to come up with something for the pay-per-view, so they decided to put Samoa Joe in that spot. Now, when will Joe be Universal Champion? I'm not sure if it's going to happen anytime soon. My feeling is Brock will be the champion for the time being, and I think Roman Reigns will be the guy to beat Brock Lesnar for the title. Whether it's at SummerSlam or if WWE holds off until WrestleMania, I'm thinking that Roman Reigns will be the next champion, and we might possibly see John Cena versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title at some point. Maybe after WrestleMania, perhaps we'll see Samoa Joe get a push and actually win the title. But right now, I would say it's unlikely it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not expecting it, but I will talk more about this with the NoDQ panel when we do our predictions for hashtag WWE Balls. This one comes from Diva Forever. If WWE does end the Brock versus Joe match in a DQ with outside interference, maybe by Strowman, would it do any good? The only way I could see that happening and making sense would be if Samoa Joe is going to be in the SummerSlam main event and WWE is going to do a triple threat, maybe do Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe, or maybe even do a four-way with Braun Strowman, have the four of them in a match for the Universal title at SummerSlam. I would not rule that out as a possibility, but other than that, unless you're going to have Joe in the title match at SummerSlam, then I think it needs to be Brock Lesnar beating Samoa Joe and moving on to the next opponent, whether it's Roman Reigns or Braun Strowman. I would not be a fan of a DQ just for the sake of protecting Samoa Joe. I think you either have Joe win the title or you have him lose. You have Brock Lesnar beat him. One way or the other, you have a finish in the pay-per-view main event at WWE Balls. I'm just not a fan of doing the DQ finishes on pay-per-views, especially in the main event. We already had something like that a couple years back when Undertaker interfered in the Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins match. Wasn't a fan of it then, would not be a fan of something like that happening this time. This one comes from Robin. Hey Aaron, longtime fan, first time asker. Alright. How would your ideal SummerSlam card look using any talent hired by WWE at the moment? Interesting question. I mean, looking at the possibilities for SummerSlam, I would definitely just get Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns over with, not wait on that until WrestleMania. You know WWE is going to do it, and I think they should. We never had a decisive finish at WrestleMania 31. The score was not settled between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So I would do that for SummerSlam, make that the main event. And as much as I would like to see Samoa Joe as Universal Champion, I think that now is not the time to do that. I think that you should get Lesnar versus Reigns out of the way. Maybe do Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. Looking at possibilities for Joe, I'd love to see Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas form a team and go for the tag team titles. Maybe do the Broken Hardys, finally get that gimmick going. Broken Hardys versus Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, the Crazy Wyatts. I'd love to see that as a dream match for SummerSlam, but my gut feeling is that's not going to happen. On the Smackdown side, I think I'd like to wait on AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I know that that is speculated for SummerSlam, and I would be fine with it. I mean, it's a great match to do, but I think WWE should save it for WrestleMania. Now, it's looking like it's going to be Mahal versus Cena, which I guess is fine. You could also do AJ Styles versus Randy Orton, but at the same time, I would like to see AJ Styles beat Jinder Mahal for the title and get the title back on AJ. I think that Smackdown, in terms of the quality, has gone down since AJ's been out of the title picture. Would be cool seeing AJ versus Jinder Mahal or AJ versus Randy Orton. I'd love to see one of those two matches for SummerSlam. They got to do something big with AJ's. You know, I think AJ should be in one of the marquee matches for SummerSlam. This one comes from Jackie. Hi Aaron, do you think WWE will ever have Brock Lesnar wrestle a TV match on Raw? And this is another first-time asker. Right on here, we got two first-time askers. I think that it would be fine if you had a good reason to do it. If you're just trying to hotshot a rating and get people to tune into Raw for 1 week, then it's really pointless. You look at when Goldberg won the title from Hulk Hogan in the Georgia Dome back in '98. It was done just to pop a rating, and at the end of the day, it really did nothing for WCW long term. And I think having Brock wrestle a match on Raw, unless there's a really good storyline reason, like maybe you have a controversial finish on a pay-per-view and you want to come back with a rematch on the next Raw, that might be interesting to do, maybe one time, since we really haven't seen it since Brock has been back. Has Brock wrestled a match on TV since he's returned? I don't think he has. So if you want to do it like one time, I think under the right circumstances, I would be fine with it, but I certainly would not make a habit of doing it, because then it takes away from Brock Lesnar being a special attraction and having people be tuning into the network to see something different and see something that they don't see on free television. So I think even in this era of the network, you still got to give the fans something special on the pay-per-views, and Brock Lesnar wrestling is something special. It's something you don't see on free TV. This one comes from Brohawk. Since TNA is renaming themselves as GFW, can we say TNA has died? Sorry, TNA soldiers. Ooh, Gilberto and Isaac are not going to be happy with you, my friend. I've gotten quite a few questions about this rebranding, what I think about it. I mean, I guess symbolically you could say it's the end of TNA and Impact Wrestling, although the show is apparently going to remain being Impact Wrestling. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think any name is better than TNA. They should have done this rebranding a long time ago. They should have gone all the way with it many years ago and dropped the TNA name. We all know TNA stands for tits and ass. And it was never really a good name in terms of being sponsor friendly. It was just a silly name. But it did work for a while as far as being a cult favorite, I guess you could say. People chanting TNA at the shows for all the big moves and stuff. So in a way, the name did work for a while. Total Nonstop Action, you know, that whole idea. But I think they needed a name change a long time ago, and it's really too little too late. Global Force Wrestling, yeah, the brand isn't really established. So I guess that's a positive, although when people think of Global Force Wrestling, they think of those shows that took place in ballparks that had a couple hundred people, and Jeff Jarrett doing the whole Global Force Gold thing. So it's not really that good of a change, but I guess any change is better than nothing. I just think that it should have been done a long time ago. This one comes from Kyle Allen. With the 10-year anniversary of the Chris Benoit tragedy, has the WWE ever fully recovered from the Benoit fallout? I would say WWE has. I would say the popularity of WWE declining in recent years is not so much what happened with Benoit, but rather just the fact that the product in general has not been as compelling. Now, some might say that the fallout from Benoit caused WWE to change and tone down the product. And on one hand, I think it's a positive that WWE is looking out for the performers more, and safety is more of a priority than it was in the past, and people are taking the concussions seriously and the health and well-being of the performers seriously. I think that that's a huge positive, and I think you can be creative without chair shots to the head and doing really dangerous stunts. I think you can be creative in other ways, but we just haven't seen it. We haven't seen WWE produce really creative and compelling storylines, and I think that that has been the bigger issue. I think the stuff with Benoit, yes, there are pros, there are cons, but I think at the end of the day, maybe it was a good thing for the industry, because now they're taking a more serious approach to the health and well-being of the performers. This one comes from Isaac the Great. If the Shield reunited, do you think Ambrose will turn heel on them? It would give him a chance to be a major star. The problem is, Dean Ambrose turning on Roman Reigns is not going to make him a heel. We all know that. I think that at some point Ambrose should be a heel. I mean, I think it should have happened a long time ago. I think that Dean Ambrose would do really well from being a heel. I think that that would help boost his career and give him something different that he could really benefit from right now. Just a change in character, take his character in a whole new direction, that sort of thing. But Ambrose turning on Reigns and Rollins, to me, that's not going to work. And honestly, I think Ambrose is still the most over babyface of the three guys right now. If anybody could benefit from a heel turn, I mean, I think Ambrose... It's weird to say because I think all three of them would be better as heels right now, but I think of the three of them right now, Ambrose is the most over as a babyface, and I think it would be better for the other two guys, even better for those other two, to turn rather than Ambrose. So it's really interesting right now. This one comes from Aaron Rift Rules, one of my all-time favorites for obvious reasons. Do you see Mauro Ranallo getting back the SmackDown announcing team once JBL is gone? Never say never, as the phrase goes, but I think that the idea behind Ranallo being on NXT is that it's less workload for him. If he's on Raw or SmackDown on a full-time basis, he might have some more issues. Who knows? He's claiming that JBL had nothing to do with him leaving SmackDown. Now, whether you believe that or not, that's on you. I think that if Ranallo is going to be back on a major show, I'd love to see him on Raw. I think that WWE would put him on SmackDown first before they would have him go on Raw, but I think that if Ranallo could do it, ideally I would like to see him on Monday Night Raw. But I think of the two, it's more likely he'll end up on SmackDown, and even that, I'm not sure if that's going to happen anytime soon. If JBL goes away, maybe, but at this point, I'm not so sure. This one comes from B Hill. Do you see Asuka coming into SmackDown Live and dominating the champion only to have Carmella, I'm not sure why I'm saying her username, come down and steal the title? I think that if Asuka comes to the main roster, I would not want to see her lose to Carmella, if that's what you're trying to say, like Carmella would come down and get a cheap victory over Asuka. I mean, you could do that if Carmella's going to cash in Money in the Bank, but I'd rather see her cash it in on somebody else. Maybe have Asuka go for the women's title and something similar to WrestleMania 31 happens where Carmella comes out and cashes it in on the champion, whether it's Naomi or Becky Lynch or whoever, and then you can have Asuka go after Carmella. Even with a cheap victory, I'm not sure if I'm a fan of Carmella beating Asuka after WWE has done so well with Asuka on NXT and having her go on this huge streak. for Carmella to beat her. Can't say I'm a fan of that, even if it's under controversial circumstances with the Money in the Bank cash-in or James Ellsworth interfering. Just not really a fan of that idea. Got this one here from Haley Shaw. Hey Aaron, do you think that Nikki Cross will win the title? Asuka's run is stale and Ember Moon has the skills but is boring in my opinion. I think it might happen eventually, but not right now. My guess is it's going to be Ember Moon winning the title at the NXT pay-per-view. I think Ember Moon will be the next champion, and maybe sometime down the line after Asuka moves up to the main roster, they'll do Ember Moon versus Nikki Cross in a big feud. That'll be the main women's feud in NXT, and at that point, I could see her possibly winning the title. I mean, it's basically going in order here. You know, Asuka's been there for a while. She'll get called up. Ember Moon will be next. She'll win the title. And then possibly somebody like Nikki Cross will be next in line to win the title, have her run, and then she'll get called up. And it'll just go in that order. That's my prediction, at least, what I think will happen moving forward in NXT. This one comes from Alistair. Do you think that TNA Such Impact should have stayed with the NWA? Not really. I think it was good that Impact broke off on its own, but, you know, going back to earlier, I think that should have been the time when TNA broke away from the NWA and was no longer NWA-TNA. I think at that point they should have rebranded and came up with a new name, and that would have been a perfect opportunity. They could have said, hey, we're breaking away from the NWA, we're this new promotion, we're going to be called such and such, and that would have been the start of the new era. And that was at a point when the brand was somewhat strong, but it was still developing, and I think fans would have been more accepting of a brand change, and it wouldn't have been looked at as such a negative. That's when I would have done the change, going back to that earlier question. But yeah, I think it was necessary to break away. You know, the problem with NWA is it's associated with a past brand, and I think that, you know, part of developing a strong brand is having that cool factor, and the NWA is associated with the past and the old timers and all that stuff. I know they have the tradition and they want to play up on that, but I think it was important to rebrand and break away and develop your own identity and not rely on something from the past. I think it was fine with getting the brand going and when you're starting up a new company, attaching to something that has some recognition. I think that was good in the beginning, but in 2007, I think that was the right time to break away. This one comes from Rigger. Hey Aaron, what's your opinion of Lance Storm? I was a big fan. Do you think he would have been, if he had had better charisma, he would have gone further? I think it would have helped him if he had more of the personality. I think that he still could have done very well, though, especially in WWE, if they had pushed him strongly. He was doing great in WCW for that 2 or 3 month period when they pushed him to the moon. And if WCW's brand had not been so severely damaged, maybe he could have been a major player and actually moved some numbers. They were doing really great with him. And I remember that match on Nitro with Booker T. The fans were really into that, and they actually thought Lance Storm had a chance of winning the title from Booker T. Now, granted, there are title changes on just about every show, so maybe that's why fans felt that way, but it felt like he was doing really well because he was given some credibility and he was dominating people and submitting people, and people were taking him seriously. When he went to WWE, they purposely played up on the boring gimmick, and I think that was really the kiss of death for him when Steve Austin came out and started calling him boring. Nobody could take Lance Storm seriously after that point, and that more or less ruined his run in WWE. But I think, yeah, if they took him more seriously, he could have had a more of a lengthy run in WWE and been in a higher profile position for a longer period of time. That'll wrap it up for NoDQ video. Thank you guys so much for watching as usual. Please share this video. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, any site you go on, anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check out this video. And on that note, I will see you guys next time.